Have you started to date somebody who you think may be a fearful, avoidant attachment style individual, aka the very hot and cold person in dating and relationships? And do you find yourself constantly wondering how often they expect to text back and forth, maybe especially if they're leaving you waiting, or what they actually want out of dating? Maybe you even find yourself wondering how often you think you should speak on the phone with them, how often you should spend time each week actually seeing each other. Well, if this sounds like you or something you are wondering about, in today's video, we are going to cover exactly those very things. And if you stick around until the end, we'll even go through an exercise that can help you just feel a great sense of certainty and relief in a very short period of time, both in terms of what this person's looking for, but what's reasonable to expect, and how to communicate if you do need more of something, using steps that will not push the person away. So if you're new here, my name is Thais. I put pretty much daily videos out on YouTube, all about attachment styles, the subconscious mind, and healing. And I ran and grew a really big client-based practice for the better part of 10 years, and then sort of moved into the online space, and created a school with a whole bunch of different courses and activities for how to really master relationships and connection. And so in today's video, my hope for you is that you'll be able to have some clarity, but also be able to take away at the end of this an exercise that can help you for this relationship. And if this one isn't the one, then for all of your relationships to follow, even including friendship dynamics, family dynamics, etc. So some of the must-knows are that fearful avoidant attachment styles, they tend to be very present when they're with somebody. They tend to be very charming and charismatic. They're really good at kind of seeing deeply into people and asking deep questions that inspire deeper conversations. But you may find that in those periods of time where you're not actively together, they tend to pull away when you're apart. So you may see that there's almost this juxtaposition, this change between when they are with you in person and then when they're not with you. And that can feel confronting and confusing for people because it can really sort of show this hot and cold dynamic and these kind of incongruencies. Fearful avoidants can also be quite self-sacrificing early, and they're really good at kind of presenting themselves. They're good at like getting to know deeply what you want and what you're looking for, and almost like subconsciously without premeditatingly doing this, at presenting themselves as if they are exactly that thing that you're looking for. So you'll see that they can be like this ideal fit. But the problem with B and C here both are that sometimes it causes them to be so focused and fixated on like what the other person's looking for that they don't show themselves properly. They won't like vet somebody. They may not show or share their truth properly in a relationship, which can lead them down a trajectory or a pathway of basically having one-sided connections. Like imagine that you get to know somebody, you find out all the things they're looking for that they want, and then you're kind of morphing yourself to sort of become those things without even consciously fully realizing that you're doing that. And then you're never actually taking the time to be like, well, what do I want? Is this person going to show up in a way that works for me and makes sense for me as well? And if you're not doing that, as the typical fearful avoidant behavior would have it, you may find that the fearful avoidance starts to pull away seemingly out of the blue as the dating stage progresses. So you may see that, things are going really exceptionally well at the beginning, and then that this person starts to pull away over time. But part of the reason fearful avoidance pull away is because they're not sharing their needs with the other person. They're not saying this is what's important to me and giving a chance to the other person to show up for those things. So they easily get burnt out by their interactions and dynamics because if your needs aren't met, you can only go on like that for so long before relationships begin to feel more draining if they're more one-sided. So it's an important thing for fearful avoidance to pay attention to, but meaningful work in general. Generally, fearful avoidance expects to talk on the phone, maybe, 3, 4 nights a week, maybe spend 2 up to 4 times per week together. It's actually generally what you'll see from securely attached people, but from a fearful avoidant perspective, it's because they want to spend time together and then they feel this need to like actively pull away. Whereas for a securely attached person, they're generally thinking of spending 2 or 3 times together a week, sometimes up to 4 times a week as a securely attached person. But the funny part is it's because they're just like steadily moving that direction. Their relationship isn't like extreme infatuation feelings and then extreme feelings of needing to pull away and like self-protect. It's more just like this steady kind of consistent progression. So you'll see some of the differences there. Now, I put here there's many variables because there can be, right? This will change roughly if you're long distance, if you are somebody who has two jobs and many children and you're a single parent, like obviously there's going to be many variables, but this is sort of like the stereotypical dynamic for somebody with a normal kind of 40-hour, 35-hour work week, fairly normal lifestyle, and not long distance. Now, this exercise can be really meaningful in terms of like how to get steady and more balanced here. And the idea is that you want to take a look at what you're actually expecting. So if you're dating a fearful avoidant, and let's say you start to feel kind of triggered or anxious or even like stressed and kind of like you want to push the fearful avoidant away, maybe you're more avoidant and you feel kind of like overwhelmed by the being really there and then really pulled away and you find yourself deactivating and pushing back on some of these things. I want you just to look at what you would want in terms of your ideal expectations. So if you could, ideally wave a magic wand and just have whatever shows up, be exactly what you're looking for. What would exactly what you're looking for be? And what you're going to see is that these exact what you're looking for dynamics these are generally our subconscious expectations. These are naturally these kind of ideas for how we expect things to go. And often these things come from like our pre-existing programming. The way that we've been conditioned to view relationships and love. And I think it's really meaningful to remember that each attachment style has very unique and different conditioning in terms of what they expect relationships and love to look like and how they expect it to go. So you first, by airing your ideal expectations, now understand your expectations, right? What your programming is. And then we can plug it into part B here, which is like, what do you find to be healthy? And the reason I ask this separate from part A is because your ideal expectations here, like if you're really anxious, maybe to text all day, every day, and to see each other 5 days a week. And you may realize after doing that exercise and thinking about that, oh, what I'm expecting isn't necessarily what a healthy relationship should look like. I could be really okay knowing that I'm moving on a healthy path if I'm, having a nice text exchange in the morning, a few messages back and forth, maybe then again in the evening, maybe talk on the phone once, twice, even up to 3 times a week, see each other in person, 2 up to 4 times a week. Like that could be really great momentum for the dating stage of a relationship. Instead of we should text all day, every day, we should talk on the phone every night, and we should see each other 5 or 6 nights a week. And so it can be useful to recognize the difference between your subconscious expectations versus like what a healthy pattern is. And generally, this is kind of the healthy dynamic you'd be looking for. Now, I will be really clear about this. If you see like a morning exchange, evening exchange, 1 to 3 calls per week, maybe seeing each other twice, 3 times a week, this would be progressing through the dating stage. This wouldn't be in the first like week of getting to know somebody or the second week. This would be after you've had a few dates under your belt. And now you can tell that like we obviously are interested in each other. This is the sort of pace of progression you would expect to see from two securely attached people. And it can be useful to kind of weigh that next to how a fearful avoidant might show up. Now, fearful avoidants may show up in somewhat similar ways here, but generally their inconsistency is the big part. So you may see that there's like lots and lots of texting from a fearful avoidant all day, every day for days at a time. And then all of a sudden there's these very simple kind of cold exchanges just in the morning or just in the evening. You may see that you're seeing a fearful avoidant 4 times a week, and then the next week it's once, or maybe you even skip a week and don't see them. And so generally the things that are important to communicate to a fearful avoidant are the needs for consistency in the interactions and dynamics. And so that really brings us to part C here, which is how do we ask for that? Now, I will share a couple of really important strategies here for how to communicate about this, when to communicate about this. But I will say as well, if you were looking to do a much deeper dive into dating, of any attachment style, knowing your standards, your needs, how to communicate without pushing somebody away too early on or without asking too much, and really knowing what those boundaries and parameters are. I have a course you can check out fully free for a limited time. I will put the link down below, and it gives you free access, and it's called How to Master the Dating Stage of Relationships. And it helps you get like a whole roadmap, know where the different boundaries are and parameters are for different attachment styles. And it just goes a lot deeper than I can go, obviously, in this one quick video. But if you are dating a fearful avoidant and things are going well, but you're really starting to get put off or find yourself a little dysregulated by the inconsistency, telling them, hey, I really like where this is going. I'm really enjoying spending time with you. Something that shows up for me as being really important in a relationship is consistency. And I notice we have these moments where we're really in it together and then there's kind of some distance. I want us to work, for us to be able to actually have a little more consistency throughout the week. Maybe, texting a little more in the morning and evening, maybe making sure we see each other at least twice a week. And that would be amazing for me. So what you're doing here is you're communicating what you do want clearly and specifically in the positive. And this is going to be much better than saying, hey, I'm getting really frustrated at your inconsistency in the relationship. I don't like that you're hot and cold, and I need us to be more consistent. Because if you communicate about what you don't want rather than what you do early on in the dating stage, before you've made a commitment to anything monogamous or more committed together in some form, and what you're doing is you're telling somebody, I expect something from you that we haven't even discussed we're even going to give each other yet. But if we instead say, hey, I would love for us to do this in our dynamics and to grow together that way, you're telling somebody about where you want to go with them, what you want to see, without this expectation and frustration directed at them that's often going to make them feel defensive and overwhelmed. And it's definitely the best way that communication will land with a fearful avoidant attachment style if consistency is what you're needing. So as I mentioned, if you want to do a deeper dive, you can check out that little course all about dating, how to master the dating stage of relationships. We talk about different attachment styles in there as well. And I hope you subscribe and join here, hang out. I put videos all the time here with different exercises, different must-knows about all the different attachment styles. Thank you so much for watching and for stopping by, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos.